Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness as a whole is very good at giving its players some form of archetype that they can do. You've seen something in a movie, you read something in a comic, you can create it. Do you want to play that like classical Dracula, the creepy ass noble? Well, Zemeski's probably going to be the way to go. You want to play the more modern incarnations of Dracula, the really terrifying nobility vibe? La Sombra, you should check that out. Though I can't say I've seen the archetype of political agitator vampire. That's not super common. I guess to keep the comparisons going, you ever want to play Dracula with a picket sign outside of a courthouse? Well, that's the Brujah, but not really in that fashion. I mean political agitation in the way of like a tire iron to the face, a brick through a window, or a Molotov through a building. These are the front and center bruiser vampires. If you were looking to play a fighter, this is the way to go. And that's the fun vibe of Brujah, and a lot on the surface you just kind of see anarchist biker. But there's a lot more going on, and their history is deceptively deep and a little sad for where they are now. So like I start all of these clan history videos, we're gonna start with the Antediluvian, which of course, a mysterious figure. A mysterious and complicated figure. So like many of the Antediluvians, we have a lot of names to choose from. Two of the names that are brought up is Trolleys and Les. Okay, listen, I'm not a guy who's great at pronunciation already. How the fuck do I say this? I do mean that legitimately for anyone in the comments who knows. This isn't on me. I did look up pronunciation guides. I didn't find much. But we're just gonna call him Brujah because that's a little bit how he's referred to already, and his name doesn't matter. But by all accounts, this dude was kind of a prick. He was kind of on his lonely. He didn't like other people. But there was an exception. He found one person that he decided to embrace and turn into his childer. This person, Trolleys the Younger, and they had like a genuine bond. It's like all those movies where you have that old asshole and then this young whippersnapper comes in and breaks through that exterior. It's a little bit like Up, and just like Up, Trolleys the Younger brutally murdered his sire through the act of diablerie. Okay, so maybe it's not exactly like Up, and maybe I lied when I said Brujah was a complicated figure. That's where his story ends, maybe. Because as the story goes, Trolleys the Younger took over the Antediluvian spot from Brujah. He took on his power. That's how it works with diablerie. However, there are some possibilities that he didn't get killed there. If we trust the writings of the Arestes fragment, the actual commentator that is working on that, if you want more info on this document I'm talking about, it's a very important sourcebook for Vampire the Masquerade. Go watch my Kane video. In this, the commentator notes he believes that this whole Brujah murder thing was a Ventru lie. And there's another reason, if we take these people's word for it, I guess. Some people believe that Brujah, when he was getting murdered, he actually time traveled into the future and evaded death. Now this sounds goofy. It is based on like a source book thing. Specifically, it's Gehenna. This is a Gehenna thing. Like for the Gehenna source book, it is a source book for running like the actual end of the world, the vampiric end of the world, and it gives you a bunch of scenarios of what could happen in your game. These run the gambit of Cain comes back, wahoo, or God descends and creates a giant red cloud that engulfs the earth and all the vampires die horribly. However, there is one where Lilith, the first wife, she comes back. She hates Cain, she hates a lot of the vampires. So she goes and gives her judgment. And in this scenario, Lias, that's where this Brujah name came from. So Brujah, he sent himself in the future because there is a discipline, temporis, that he had. And the people of his bloodline, the true Brujah, also have. There are people who believe they're from him and not Trolleys the Younger. He is catapulting through time. He sends himself thousands of years in the future, but to him, it feels like tens of thousands. That sucks. Thank God he's immortal, I guess. But he comes out and he acts as a messenger for Lilith, and he's working on her side because he's a little pressed about what happened. And so this is like that bit of nebulous canon where it's canon if you decide it is. Classic World of Darkness. It's giving you a lot of options for what could be true in your own chronicle. And this kind of hits the reason I like to talk about the Antediluvian stories first and foremost before going into the actual clans, because all of these Antediluvian plots are usually a method of figuring out the vibe of the clan. It's a really good like self-contained story method of doing this. This hits a very specific beat in the Brujah tale. That is the elder versus the younger. That is really how it goes. On a very small level, this can hit with how the Brujah do their embraces. They do not like rules. They do not like being shackled. So having this new vampire tagging along, that's dumb. Also, the Camarilla keep putting all these rules on when and where you can like bite somebody and embrace them. The Brujah believe in doing it whenever they feel like it. As well, they don't like parenting. It's not really parental for these kind of relationships, but whatever. Oftentimes, they embrace somebody on a whim and then give zero support. Like whatever, you figure it out. You figure out the vampire rules. So the Caitiff, which are loosely non-clan aligned vampires, if you trace their bloodlines, you will find a lot of Brujah. It's just how it be. On a much larger historical level, we have the Anarch revolt. 15th century, the Inquisition was really cracking down on vampires and killing a lot of them. So the elders decided, what if I just threw all my childer in the line of fire? They started just hucking younger vampires directly in the line of fire. They didn't want to die. However, the younger vampires thought this sucked. So they rose up and fought against their elders and took over their own little form of power. Brujah is really front and center of a lot of this, and if we fast forward a long time to modern nights, the Brujah still are the heads of the Anarch revolt and the Anarch movement. I'm really speeding through the whole Anarch stuff because I want to make a video on the Anarch movement itself. There's a lot of story to go through, like a whole lot. So essentially, this like Anarch society rejects Camarilla outright, just do not want to listen to them. And they operate, if I have to get the vibe that I've read through and even played through and listened to through all of the forms where you see Anarchs, it really operates more like a gang. Also leans into the whole dividing line that Brujah society can be really cut into. On one hand, there are what are known as the Iconoclasts. These are very idealist Brujah who really hit that vibe of like warrior scholar. They believe in tearing something down and building something else. They have something new that they can replace things with. They believe in creating new things. They really like coming up with these long, intricate ideas for society and how it should operate and how life should be led. The best way to just point at this is the city of Carthage. Carthage used to be a Brujah paradise. It was built by a bunch of them. It was built by like Trolley the Younger. He was there. They built up in Carthage, though some say that this is like actually a blood cult horrible place, but at least without the Brujah tell it, it was amazing. It was exactly what they wanted. It was perfect freedom. The actual like vampire and mortal society lived pretty well together. It's the closest it's ever been handled. However, this is taken down by Ventru Rome. You know just how the history of Carthage went? Picture that, but with vampires. Hannibal was a Brujah. I always love that. I love the historical figure turned to vampire. But on the other end, after this fall, we can see the idealists. The idealists really just like breaking the thing the Iconoclasts made, or really anything made. You have a status quo, you have a thing you put in, break it, destroy it. Especially after Carthage being destroyed, it was noted that the Brujah were like angrier and a lot quicker to violence after this moment. Which, to be fair, it's a real fall from grace. They have this perfect society, exactly what they wanted, and then it's gone. And they've been trying to rebuild this, but it hasn't been very successful, like at all. Best way to view this is the actual like concept of the free state of California. There's both the Anarch movement that is all through California, largely led by my boy Nines. If you actually just want to play through and watch the actual history of this, of all of these projects with the Anarchs, you should first play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and then LA by Night. LA by Night is set obviously in LA, and it's really hitting these moments. The actual grouping of Brujah as like a government figure didn't work super well, but California is now an Anarch free state. That's something. They had a lot of problems doing that, including the Society of Leopold and the Camarilla. It's a lot. But really, the main issue with Brujah and how they lead their lives is really hit by their Bane and compulsion. Their Bane is that they are quick to anger. They are passionate, angry people. It is hard for a Brujah to keep their emotions in check. Now, this might mean that there's a part of them that deeply, passionately believes in something, but there's also the part where this is where we get Brujah are quick to violence. They will punch you in the face. They'll make their opinions known either with their words or their fists. Funnily enough, this is another concept in Brujah society. There is what is known as the rants and the raves, but the rants are literally just a group of Brujah arguing and yelling at each other, and the raves are usually hidden political meetings But it's specifically their compulsion that I think hits the most fascinating part of Brujah, and the part I think is the coolest. The compulsion is they need to rebel. They need to fight something. Like I said, they see a status quo, they want it gone. Now, this can hit in many different ways. I think there's an image that immediately goes into your head when I say they're prone to rebelling. Oftentimes, a Brujah will pick something that they believe is some form of counterculture or different, and there's a part of them that deeply wants to fight with it. This can run the gambit, like protesting climate change stuff, or alternatively, they could be an eco-terrorist, joining the werewolves, I guess. And then we also have the other lens, because I think there's two misconceptions when it comes to this element for the Brujah that I've seen. The first is Brujah rebellion is not altruistic. It's really not. They see a belief system and they want to fight against it, because there are a decent subsection of Brujah that believe in pretty horrible stuff. Like there's some neo-Nazi Brujahs. And I also see, this is a bit more of a community thing, I have seen a lot of elements of the Brujah where people are like, man, they're all just like these idealists. They're all these like, you know, college student protester kind of vibe. And to be honest, I think this is because that's more the vibe people are wanting to play. Either it's something that hits close to home, where like they have experience with this, or alternatively, the reason I think, and I think it's not a big deal if, I guess this is a rubbing point with the Brujah, I think it's more comfortable to play than the alternative. Because to be completely honest, I'd be a little weirded out if someone joined my table and was a little too good at role-playing a skinhead. I think I would also not be cool with that, like rightly so. But this is the entire point I'm making of the Brujah belief system and their wants of rebellion. I'm putting a lot of words to this. I'd like to show off a person who worded it a lot better and hits a little harder, I think. This is for LA by Night, and it's specifically a point made by Brennan Lee Mulligan's character.
You can't even hear it in your own voice. When you said the Camarilla would come back, you didn't hear it in how you spoke? The hunger? Annabelle, you're like all the activists and rioters and protesters that have ever been. You don't want to catch the car. You don't want them gone, because it's not about winning to you. Who you are is rebellion. I told you your revolution was successful and you looked heartbroken. Because you don't want to win, you want to fight. That's your beast.
Absolute perfection. I love this clip. But this really leans into the curse put on Cain, like one of his many. There is a curse put on him that he is unable to till the soil, which essentially is he is unable to really build something. The vampires can't do the same. They can't create things. They have to really like undermine and work off of something that's pre-existing. On a much larger level, this can be seen with God literally destroying the second city with the flood, a outside force completely destroying a thing vampires built. On the other hand, we have in the Brujah, where often a Brujah will create something. They will actually succeed in their rebellion and build something. And then probably a younger Brujah is going to come along and break it too. So that's the thing they hit. It's this endless circle. And I also think it hits the vibe that they want to tell with Vampire 5th Edition and current incarnations of the game, as it leans a lot more into personal horror. And this element, I think, hits that story beat of when is the person you once were gone? Because you as a person, a human being, I hope you have opinions on things. But once you're a vampire and you have those opinions dictated by the beast, and you don't have like all these altruistic reasons, there's something just innate that's pulling you to do something. It's that personal horror of when does the person die and all that's speaking from their mouth is and that's what's fun about the Brujah. But if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Big shout out to my channel members who make these videos possible. Huge thank you, and a even bigger shout out to my top tier channel members, Ultra Mega Jesus and Czar Shadow. Both absolute legends. But yeah, that's honestly it. So